Welcome to Scary Stories from the Rez, the podcast where we find spooky and unexplainable tales from reservations across BC. I'm your host, Meagan Howard-Gibbon, and I'll be bringing you stories that have been passed down through generations, as well as personal encounters with the unknown. This is the very first episode, and we will be visiting Witset, formerly known as Morristown. Witset is a small reserve between Smithers and Terrace, where my guest today, Juanita Nikal, grew up before moving to Prince George. Juanita is a close friend of mine. We went to college together and later found out that we're cousins. I'm so excited for her to be here and share her stories with us. Welcome to the podcast, Juanita.
Thank you.
I'm so excited that you're here.
Me
too. I'm really excited to hear your scary stories. So can you first tell us about your journey moving to Prince George?
Okay. So I moved to Prince George in 2012, I believe, to go to school, and I wanted to become a business manager. I mainly wanted to gain my credentials so I could go back and lead our community back home, but I ended up loving it here and loving the life that I built here, so I ended up staying.
I'm so happy you stayed.
Me too. Me too.
And what was it like growing up in Witset?
Well, it is kind of crazy on the Rez. Growing up on the Rez, in terms of relatives, it's really great because there's a lot of them. And a lot of the stories I'll talk about instances with cousins because we all grew up so closely. So, yeah, you'll hear about that later.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us where Witset is located and what it's like there, just as someone who might be driving through?
Yep. So don't blink or you'll miss it because the part that's attached to the highway is pretty small. It's located in northern British Columbia, and it's on a very famous river, the Bulkley River, and it's a huge tourist attraction, so we have a lot of visitors every year, but it is very beautiful and scenic, and there's a lot of trails and stuff like that I would suggest checking out, and very rich in history.
Yeah, it's awesome there.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful, and you can see the canyon when you are there and watch the fish and people dip netting, which is really cool.
Yes.
So, tell me about your first encounter with something spooky or supernatural.
Okay, so I didn't realize this was spooky until my adult life, but we used to live in the old school, which was like an old elementary preschool for Witset, and we lived in the upstairs in the back of the school, and the rest of the school was closed off to us. And so I used to go downstairs every day and play with a little boy and a little girl. And there was a little storage room with lots of shelves and banker's boxes filled with different types of toys. So they'd be waiting for me every day, and they'd be at the bottom of the stairs as soon as I would come down. We'd start by going into the little storage room and taking down the banker's boxes from the shelves. And I always found it funny that I would have to be the one to take down the banker's boxes. They would never want to climb the shelves to grab them down. But they would hold them. I could pull them off the shelf and like kind of loop my arm around a post and pull it down and hand it to them. They would climb down the shelf, and I would take it from them, and then we'd walk out of the storage room into the big open area and play with toys for hours. And they were really nice. And I remember asking my mom a few years ago, who were those kids that I used to play with in the basement at the old school? And her face kind of dropped, and she said, Juanita, what are you talking about? And I said, well, there was a boy and a girl that I used to play with in the basement all the time, and they'd be waiting for me whenever I would go down. And she said the basement was locked from the inside out. All of the windows and doors were nailed shut, so there's no way that anybody could get in or out. And her face, like, I watched it drain from the blood, like it just turned white. And I guess I scared her, like she didn't really want to talk about it anymore.
That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. So I realized then and there that I was probably playing with some little spirits that were left behind.
Oh my goodness. In the basement of a church.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so creepy.
It is. And there's a lot of stories that I've heard come out of that church, that old school. So.
Oh, okay. Do people live in that church now, or old school?
I don't think anybody lives there anymore, but they have reclaimed it as a school for young adults. So they are using it quite often.
I wonder if they see anything happening there.
I think they do. I've heard stories. I can't recall them, but I know when I went to school there, when I was older, I was in a computer course, and the lab was in the basement, and everybody was there. Everybody was in the basement in the lab, and I think I left to use the bathroom upstairs. And when I was coming back, I heard a loud scream, but I thought it was coming from inside the computer lab. So I rushed to open the door, and I asked, what's happening? What's wrong? And the instructor was yelling at me. She started yelling at me, why are you screaming? And I was shocked because I thought the scream came from in there. Everybody's looking at me, asking me if I was okay, because they thought the scream came from outside the room. So,
wow.
But we all heard it. And
yeah.
It was loud and like it was so shrilling.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I would be out of there so fast.
Yeah, but I had to stay and finish class. But we were all kind of shaken up.
Yeah.
It. Yeah.
That's so freaky.
Mm-hmm. Just because of the type of scream that it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't forget that.
No way. Do you have any stories from Witset that are like traditional lore?
Yes. So there are a lot of legends in our village. One of them is about owls. So our aunties would tell us about not going out at night because you could be taken by an owl. And there was also one about, we call it Sunday, but in English that means shapeshifter. And usually it takes the form of an otter in our legends. But it could be anything because it's a shapeshifter, right? And then it'll typically use the image or the voice of a loved one, more specifically like your romantic partner, to kind of lure you out of your house and away to never be seen again. Kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm. Usually they have like a story why they would tell that, so that it's like a lesson in the legend.
Yeah, there's always lessons behind it. So, like for Jundai, a lot of times it was another person, like another woman, like very beautiful, luring a partner away. And so the message was not to stray from your relationship. And for the owl, it was not to go out at night because something could happen to you. You could be taken away. You could lose your life. And so it was to try to keep you home, I think, in the dark hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely get scared at nighttime.
Yeah.
Especially out in the wilderness.
Yes. And Witset is surrounded by wilderness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so cool. Do you have any other stories?
Yes, I was saving this really scary story for you. I think it's scary because it involves demons, or a demon, and it was told to me by my uncle and my grandpa when my grandpa was still alive. And so my uncle used to live with my grandpa in the heart of the res, and he had these muscle and fitness magazines that were his prized possessions, and he would keep them in his closet stacked neatly in chronological order, and nobody was allowed to touch them. I wasn't allowed to touch them because I might crinkle the pages. So he kept them in his closet, and there was no door on his closet, and his bed was kind of directly adjacent to the closet. It was a tiny room, so there was only enough room for like his twin bed and his end table and a little dresser, and then there's the door, and the closet was right beside the door. And so he was having these nightmares that a demon was coming out of his closet in the darkness and like crawling onto the bed and crawling over top of him and like kind of like holding him down. So he was paralyzed in his sleep, and it would just stare at him and laugh at him and say that it was gonna take him or whatever. And so he was telling me and my grandpa about the dreams he was having, and my grandpa ran to his wall and he took a cross. He had a wall full of crosses, and he took the biggest one off of the wall and he handed it to my uncle, and he told him, the next time you're dreaming about that, keep this beside your bed, and the next time you're dreaming about it, you take the cross and you start praying with it, and that'll protect you. Some time passes and I go up to visit my grandpa again, and my uncle's like telling us a story about how he was able to use the cross that my grandpa gave him, and he said that he dreamt of the demon again, and it was coming out of the closet like it usually did, but he remembered that he had his cross. So in his dream, he grabbed the cross beside his bed and he started to pray. And he realized as he was grabbing the cross, the demon kind of stopped and like kind of hesitated. So then he decided to use the cross, and like praying to God, he started to get up out of bed and like move towards the demon, and the demon started backing up, and he backed into the closet, and he was kind of like sitting on top of the muscle and fitness magazines. And my uncle just kept like praying to God and like, take this demon, and it started like pushing the magazines off onto the floor, like trying to get back into the closet, like into the wall. And as he was doing that, he stood up with the cross, and then he kind of reached over around to the side of the door, and he switched on the lights like without looking away from the demon. And he said as soon as the light went on, the demon disappeared, but the books were all strewn all over the floor, like all by the bed, under the bed and everything. And he said just the sight of that like kind of scared him, and he like dropped the cross and like ran out of the room. And so he's telling me and my grandpa and brings us to the bedroom, and we come in and look, and all of his, like, you can see the footprints and everything, like in the books, like where this person or demon was like pushing the magazines out of the room. And then he freaking drew the demon for us, and it was the demon. It looks like Darth Maul. Have you ever seen Darth Maul?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or like even more recently, there's a video called Insidious, a movie called Insidious, and it looks like that demon. So I couldn't bring myself to watch that movie because it looks more realistic than the Darth Maul demon. And I'm sure, like, if you talk to a priest or somebody that's like well versed in demonology, you could probably find the real name of that demon.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of my friend from Takla was telling me about their sister who had experience with some kind of spirit in their room when she was a little girl, and she would just scream and scream because there was something in her room. And when she finally saw the Insidious movie, she said that was the man who was in her room. So I was drawing a parallel between Witset and Takla, which are just basically one mountain away from each other, and Takla's out in the middle of nowhere. There's a 2-hour drive down a Forest Service road to get there. So that really gave me tingles.
The heebie-jeebies.
Major heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, that's really scary.
Mm-hmm.
I can't watch Insidious.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, because of that demon.
Yeah. Did anything else happen in your uncle's house?
Yes, so that same cross that he used to kind of dispel the demon, he didn't need it anymore, so he hung it back up on the wall. And he didn't see any more of it, but my other uncle that also lived there said that same cross kind of turned upside down one night when he was watching TV, which really scared him. And there was other stuff that happened, kind of like footsteps banging up the stairs, and other things like when me and my cousins were really small, my cousin Eva babysat us there, and the speaker system kept going on, the stereo kept going on, and it was playing some AC/DC song. I wish I could remember which one, but it was going on full blast. So we were trying to watch cartoons, and so the first thing we did was turn it down, turn it off. And I was always the brave one. I always had to be the one to check or do anything about it. So first thing I did was turn it off, turn it down. We started watching the movie again. It turned on again. So I think I just kept doing that for a while, and my cousin Eva was like, just unplug it. And I was worried that we were going to get in trouble for unplugging it. So that was my first thought, but I didn't want to get in trouble. So with her permission, I went and unplugged everything from the wall, and it went off again. And at that point, I started getting scared because I'm like, okay, I know I unplugged it. And she started yelling at me and getting mad, and when I tell you to do something, make sure you do it. And I said, Eva, I did. I walked over to the unit, and there was like a couple of inches between it and the wall, and I just took my hand behind the unit, and I went from the top all the way down to the ground so she could see that there was nothing attaching it. And when I did that, when my hand hit the floor, all the kids got up, like some of them were laying on the floor like this, some were on the couch. They got up and they all started screaming, like ran to the bedroom because they realized there's no way that stereo should be playing if it's not plugged in, and that scared them. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, we all ran to the room, and I think we stayed there and fell asleep until our parents came home because we were so scared.
All together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really scary.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe the spirits just didn't want you to be watching a movie or something? Like,
Possibly.
why were they doing that? Do you have any ideas?
My theory is that they thrive and feed on fear, but it could be that, it was really late and we should have been in bed.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was one of our ancestors putting us to bed, but my theory is that evil thrives on fear.
Yeah, that's a scary way to make you go to bed, so.
Right. Didn't think of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any?
Yes, actually, there's one that I told just recently to some friends, and it was similar to what happened in my uncle's house. There were footsteps. So my mom left me and two of my cousins home alone. So we were watching a movie on a couch, just kind of a few steps away from our front door. And we could hear stomping up the stairs from the basement up to the entryway. And I was too scared to move. So this time it was my cousin Rhea who walked over to the top of the stairs, and she yelled, "Who's there?" Because whoever it was, they stomped their feet so intrusively that it scared us. And Emily and I were watching her from the seat, and her eyes got big and her body kind of moved backwards a little bit, which scared us even more. And then all of a sudden we heard stomp, stomp, stomp up the stairs from the entry to the top. So we ran behind the couch that was against the stairway, and she came and ran behind us, and I looked at her. We were looking at the stairs, and then I looked at her, and I asked her, "Who was it?" And she said there was nobody there, but I felt a really cold breeze that kind of went through my whole body. And we were like, "What?" That's so scary. And they both were like, "Okay, I can't stay here. We have to leave." So I'm sitting there begging them to stay because I don't want to be in that house by myself. Yeah, so then they leave, and I'm trying to play it cool, act like I'm not scared, even though I am, because I have to stay there by myself or I'll get in trouble if I leave. My mom's not home. So I put the movie back on and I'm watching it, and then my brother had like a jumper hanging from the center of the ceiling, and all of a sudden it looked like somebody kicked it, like it went up to hit the ceiling and then it hit the other side. So it's like shoo, shoo, like really loud and really scary. So I just like get off the couch really slowly and I walk to the front door, put my shoes on, and then I'm like run out the door as fast as I can and like up to my grandpa's house.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You have so many stories from Witset.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Why do you think there's so many coming from there?
I think we're very spiritual and very intuitive and maybe see or hear things that most people wouldn't. So,
but there's like strong like activity happening if you can see them like kicking baby jumpers and
yeah,
like that's pretty extreme.
It is.
Yeah.
It's pretty extreme. And I don't know, like I talked to my doctor about this kind of thing, and I said I wanted to talk about like how lucid I am, and he's like, the fact that you're asking, it shows your lucidity. So, but it's not just like those instances weren't just me experiencing, it was always around other people. So other than when I was a kid. So
I recall some other stories that you have from Witset that aren't just ghost stories, but you've seen other or heard other stories or seen other things happen there.
Yeah, so there was another story that I wanted to share with you about my uncle. He came to babysit me, and his house was just up the road. He lived with my grandpa, and so he was babysitting, and all of his friends came to visit, and they wanted to play some new game on his system at his place, and they kept bothering him to go, and he was only watching me because of the scary instance that happened with me and my cousins. So he was like, okay, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to leave me here alone. And he's like, you'll be fine. Nothing happened while I was here. I've been here for hours and nothing's happened. So, and I'm like, that's not the point. I just don't want to be alone. And he's like, well, just come with me. And I'm like, I'm not allowed to leave the house. Like, I didn't ask my mom if I could go to your place. And he's like, just come, stay, do whatever. I don't care. He's like, but I'm out. So he leaves with his friends, and they're like running up the hill to go to my grandpa's place. And I'm like trying to put my shoes on really fast so I can leave with them. And so I'm the last one, and I'm running up, and I see the group going, and there's one straggler, and that was my cousin Norman. And so I'm running behind Norman. I'm like, Norman, wait up. And he's just like going. And I see this thing fly down, and at first I think it's a crow because it's pure black, but then I realize it's a lot bigger than a crow. And it comes down, and it kind of goes near his shoulder, and then it goes back up. And he stops running, and he's like mid-step, like one foot is in the air. His hands are like in the running motion. And I keep running, and I catch up to him, and I kind of look at him, and he's like just like frozen and like looking, and he looks scared. And I'm like, hey, are you coming? Are you okay? And I just keep running because I'm scared at whatever I saw just now, and trying to catch up with the group so that I feel safer with all the numbers. And I run inside, and they're like, hey, where's Norman? And I said, I don't know. He was standing out there, but he was frozen. Like he just was like frozen in place. So they started coming down the stairs towards me. And then all of a sudden Norman bursts into the door, and his face is pure white. He pushes through the crowd of boys up the stairs into the bathroom, and I hear him throwing up. And he's just like vomiting until he can't vomit anymore. And we don't know like what happened to him. I'm trying to explain to the guys, like, I saw something come out of the sky, and they're not listening to me. They're like, whatever, like, stop talking, like, let him talk. And so once he's like regained his composure from getting sick, he starts telling them something came out of the sky and it touched me on the shoulder, and my whole body froze. Like I couldn't move. My whole body went cold. I don't know what it was, but it was something evil. And then they all turned to me, and they're like, okay, what did you see? And I told them I saw a shadow figure come out of the sky, but near his shoulder. I didn't see it touch him or anything, but it came down and then it went straight back up. And so they're like, you saw whatever it was that touched him. So that was pretty creepy. Like we still don't know to this day what that was, but it made him violently ill. And yeah, we think it was something evil. Crazy. So if any of you know what that was, please let us know. Still don't know what it is.
That was a really scary story. And yeah, I can't believe how many stories that you do have, because I am so fascinated by it.
Where were we?
So what do you think it means?
I just called it like a black shadow entity.
Mm-hmm.
And usually for me, like, I think entities are not very good spirits or entities. I don't even think they're spirits. They're like black, like demonic, like entities.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to explain it.
Why did it, like, why do you think, do you have any theories as to why it came and touched your cousin's shoulder?
Yeah, my theory is that it comes down to kind of steer you on the right path. Like if you're going down the wrong path, like dabbling with drugs and alcohol or what have you, I think that things like this happen to kind of push you back onto the right path.
Yeah.
Just a theory.
Have these experiences taught you anything about life?
I think for myself personally, just to try to be a good person with good intentions. That's what I take from my experiences, because I know there's more to life than what we see and hear and do every day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories that maybe when you were older?
Oh, yes. So I was on the Morristown Volunteer Fire Department for several years, and there was a really scary situation that happened to us. We received a call for what I learned later on was Sasquatch. And so we all show up at the fire hall and we're getting our gear on, and usually during this time our fire chief is, shouting out the specifics of the detail, like the fire details, whose house, like what the location is like, if it's in the house, in the shed, if it's a grass fire, like whatever it is, he's telling us everything that he knows about the fire. And this time was different. We were all putting on our gear and he was just quiet, and he looked pretty solemn. We didn't know what was happening. We're all looking at each other because we're all family, and we're just thinking the worst, like it's somebody we know, it's something really bad, like it's got to be a house fire, maybe somebody didn't get out. So I speak up and I'm like, "Hey chief, what are the deets?" And he's like, "Just get ready, get in the truck, I'll tell you in the truck." And then we look at each other and we're just like, oh crap, something awful happened. So we're just trying to rush as fast as we can. And we all hop in and we're pulling out of the fire station, and he says, "You're not going to believe this, but we received a Sasquatch call." And my first instinct was to joke around about it. And I'm like, "What? Sasquatch? What the heck? I don't believe in Sasquatch." And I start thinking, well, there was just a call for a sighting, so there's a first time for everything. And I put on my seatbelt because I'm starting to get scared. And I'm thinking, if there is a Sasquatch out there, I'm going to put my seatbelt on. I'm going to put my seatbelt on so it's harder for him to pull me out of the truck. And I start looking for the door locks on the fire truck. And I'm like, "Hey chief, where's the door lock?" And he's like, "Oh, these new trucks don't come with door locks." And then the fear starts welling up inside of me, and I'm like, okay, what happens if we see one? What if we anger it? What if it's trying to like come and attack us and get in the vehicle? And so now I'm scared. And another thing that scared me was within 15 minutes, there was 11 cop cars in our reserve helping us search for the Sasquatch. And I'm thinking, like, I didn't even know our detachment had 11 cop cars, and why are they out here so fast? Like, do they know something we don't know? What's happening here? So my chief tells me to pick up the spotlight, because we have a spotlight in our fire trucks, and I'm looking in the forest and putting the spotlight in the forest, and then I all of a sudden get another thought, like, what if I saw Sasquatch staring back at me from in the forest, and this fear wells up inside of me, and I'm thinking, what would I do? Would I even be able to tell my colleagues that I saw Sasquatch, or would the fear be too strong that nothing would come out of my mouth? Like, I'm just thinking all of this as I'm searching, and I don't want to search. I just want to shut off the light and like kind of ball up in the car, like scared, but I have to, like, that's my duty. So we go around for about an hour searching everywhere that we can think of, and the cops are searching with us. We all have our spotlights, we're all looking, but eventually we couldn't find anything, so we go back to our fire department, and we do, after a call, we do a debriefing. And so once we're done that, I start joking around again, and I'm like, getting ready to leave. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back to my house and finish watching TV. And just before I'm leaving, I'm like, hey chief, where did you say that sighting was? And he's like, oh, I didn't say. It was right out there. And he points towards the mailboxes, which are close to our fire hall. And where the heck did I park but right beside the mailboxes? So I have to like scrounge up every ounce of courage in my body just to walk in front of my comrades to my car, and then like act like I'm not scared. So
That's so scary. So, like, does the fire department go out whenever there's a call to 911?
yes.
Okay.
And we had a really good response time. It was 1:05 from the time of the call to our fire truck leaving the station, which is incredible.
So, you guys, when you got into the fire truck, were going towards where they said the Sasquatch was going?
No, we didn't actually. He took us down the road towards the lake because I think he thought that, you know, if the call was by the fire hall, directly behind there is our lake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we had 2 fire trucks go out. One went up the road, and we went down and we went to the lake.
And we're guessing where it was.
Yeah, just trying to find it. The other truck went through the res to, like, I guess check, make sure everybody's houses were okay.
What would you do if you saw it?
That's what I was thinking when I was looking with the spotlight. I'm like, what would I do? I'd be deathly afraid because I'd never seen anything like that before. And I was thinking, I probably, like, the fear that I feel right now, I don't even know if I would be able to tell anybody. If I could say, like, I found it. Like, I don't even know if I would be able to mouth those words because the fear that I was feeling, like, made me, like, kind of tense up inside. Yeah.
But don't people say when you see a Sasquatch, it's because they're revealing themselves to you?
Yes.
And it's like, I don't know, some people say it's a good thing and some people say it's a bad thing.
Yeah, so in our culture, we believe that it's an omen to try to tell you to, like with Sunday, to put you back on the right path.
So whoever called in that Sasquatch sighting really just needs to get back on the right path.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell her. It's my cousin.
Wow.
I'll check in on her.
That's so creepy.
It is.
But it would be cool to see one.
Yeah, I think it would be cool too, because
Mm-hmm.
I respect them, and I've heard a lot of stories, like even from my grandparents, like they said they've seen one, and they did actually acknowledge that they were drinking quite a bit, and it actually kind of scared them straight for a little while. So they quit, like they took a pledge, what they call it, back in the day, and they stopped drinking for quite a while after they encountered one.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing. I have another Sasquatch story.
Oh, tell me.
Okay, so I didn't actually see one. It was my ex-sister-in-law and her wife who were visiting up in the Nass Valley, and they were taking their nephew out for a walk in the woods. And one of them has a fancy camera, so they like to take pictures. So they brought it with them. And they kept telling each other they feel like they're being watched. And so all of a sudden they kind of get an eerie feeling and they stop. And they just start looking around. And off in the distance, they see a tree with a silhouette behind it. And the silhouette is really tall, so it looks like Sasquatch standing behind. And one of them, the one with the camera, says, "I'm going to try to get a picture." Like, she kind of whispers. And the other one's like, no, let's just go. Let's get out of here. And she slowly is raising her camera to get a picture. And all of a sudden it whips a piece of wood out of the tree. And it comes straight towards them, and it hits one of them in the arm. I can't remember who, but it hits them in the arm, and then they just take off running. And they go straight back to the place that they're staying, and they throw all of their belongings into their suitcases. And if you know them, you know like how organized and tidy they were. They usually pack their suitcases a certain way. For them to just like throw everything in and just go, like they didn't care whose items were going in whose luggage. They were just throwing it in, and they threw everything in the car, and they came straight back to Prince George. And so when they got to Prince George, they came straight to my place, and I just happened to be cleaning up, so I just vacuumed my floor. And I'm kind of a psychopath. I vacuum it into like certain lines. And I have like rows of lines, and they have to be perfect. And so I put my vacuum away. And so I vacuum from the living room all the way into the bedroom. And then I have a little closet where I keep my vacuum in the bedroom. I put it away, and I'm walking out, and I see this huge footprint in the front of my living room. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, where did this come from? It's like a perfect footprint. It looks like a Sasquatch footprint. And so I take a bottle of nail polish just for scale, and I put it beside it, and I'm on my cell phone bending over, taking pictures of it. And all of a sudden I hear them come in the door, and they're looking at me, and they're laughing at me because I'm trying to get this picture. They're like, "Why are you taking a picture of the floor?" of the carpet. And I'm like bent right over. I'm totally involved, and I look up, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to get a really good picture of this Sasquatch footprint." And I see their face go white, like they just dropped their smile, and they're like totally white. And the one of them was like, let's go, let's get out of here. I'm scared." And they turn around and they walk out, and they're like the door slams behind them. And I phone them, and I'm like, "Hey, what's happening? Are you guys okay? Like, did I say something wrong? What happened?" And they tell me what happened to them in the Nass Valley, and they said, your place is the first place, like, we didn't stop the whole time. So the fact that you saw a Sasquatch footprint and that was the first word you said to us when we got in the door, it really scared us, because it's like it's showing us that it followed us here. And so they were really creeped out, and I'm like, so you just left me here, like, with the Sasquatch? Like, you couldn't give me a heads up or anything so, like, I could leave with you guys? Or, I'm like, all of a sudden I'm scared, and I, like, walk over to the footprint, and I'm, like, using my feet to, like, scrub out the footprint. And I'm like, you need to leave. Like, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah. That's so freaky. So they drove straight from the Nass Valley to your house.
Yeah.
Here in Prince George.
Yeah.
And how far is the Nass Valley?
I think it's like an 8-hour drive, 9-hour drive.
And they came straight there.
Straight to
and
my
they
place.
saw a Sasquatch foot.
They saw Sass. They didn't even come over to look at it. They were just out of there.
Yeah. I mean, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to do some self-reflection and see see what's going on, if they can change anything. I don't know if you heard during your story that there was some thunder outside.
I did.
There's a little bit of ambiance for our spooky stories.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
The universe is conspiring in our favor.
Exactly. Okay, so do you have any final thoughts or messages for the listeners?
I think what I want to share is just not to be like seeking things like this out, because it could bring like negative entities into your life. And I know that I do it myself, like, but just try to be careful if you are. I know I do. I get a thrill from watching scary movies, and my partner tells me all the time, like, maybe we shouldn't, maybe we're welcoming like unwanted spirits into our home. And just to live your life with good intentions for yourself and for others, I think that is all we can do. And maybe that's why these things show themselves to us, and to like put us on the right path.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any ways of like helping to cleanse yourself spiritually to get the bad energy out?
Yep. I pray. So I feel like I'm a very spiritual person. And so through my entire life, I've always talked to Creator and my angels. And so I pray, and I use smudge, and I kind of move through my home and over myself to remove any negative or ill energy, and to welcome positive energy, abundant happiness, and protection over myself and my whole family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing your stories with us, and I'm really happy that we got to hear your spooky stories and get some little thrills out of some local places. And I hope that our listeners stay tuned for our next episode, and keep following the Scary Stories from the Rez podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to all of your other podcasts.
Yay!
Yay! Awesome.
Cool.
Very cool.
We did it. I'm so
Yay.
excited.